Steel, discontented people, and the great sickle and hammer. Russia was entering a new age, the age of industry. Factories quickly dotted the land, while winding railroads carried materials throughout the land to fuel production. And with radical change comes radical apprehension. Landowners saw that the riches they used to enjoy now lay in the hands of factory owners and capitalists. Peasants were forced to pay enormous taxes that seemed to lead into the pockets of the men in the city, far removed from their own lives. Most importantly, workers grew unruly as they toiled in the harsh conditions in cramped factories. This unrest led to the development of socialist thought in Russia. Socialists in the Social Revolutionary Party opposed the new industrialization and called for an agrarian future. Vladimir Lenin, a radical socialist, would later lead the communist revolution and forever change Russia. However, Tsar Nicholas II and his government stood in Lenin's way. The socialists and the inspired workers had to defeat the Tsar in order to get their way, a near impossible task. It was a tumultuous era of development.
The year was 1890, and Europe was booming with newfound technology and developing industry. There was, however, one country that was left behind, the vast and empty Russia. This was clearly alarming to the Russian government. Everything would change when an ambitious man named Sergei Witt took the seat of financial minister. Through his countless policies, Russia would work to nail down over 30,000 kilometers of railroad. This would allow the government to build more factories without losing a railway connection. Textile, steel, and iron factories emerged, strengthening economic power. Witt single-handedly pulled Russia into the competitive European markets. In a report to the Russian king, Witt describes the change that his policies enacted.
It must be stated, first of all, that the system, because it is coherently carried out, is already beginning to show results. Industry numbers now more than 30,000 factories and mills, with an annual production surpassing 2 billion rubles. That by itself is a big figure. A widespread and tight net of economic interest is linked to the welfare of that industry.
Although Russia became more powerful as a result of Witt's reforms, not everyone appreciated the change. Many commented on how factories dirtied the cities. Others complained about the detestable conditions that factory employees had to experience. The culmination of the resentment against industrialization by the proletariat reached its height on January 22, 1905, also known as Bloody Sunday. The following is never before seen footage of the events that took place on Bloody Sunday. With the murder of these working-class protesters, the Social Revolutionary Party became agitated. Then, they worked towards augmenting the influence of socialism and ultimately improving the working-class condition.
The people of Russia would quickly become the cogs of the industrial machine. Hidden behind the walls of the factories, workers toiled for long and hard hours with very little room to relax. Even with such poor treatment, these workers often received very little pay, thus created the general loathing of industrialism and protests in Russia.
The once beautiful and blue sky has been turned into a darker and hazy color. The once happy people have been turned into the slaves of machines and industry. What have we done to our once pristine society?
Every one of my days is filled with the mindless, strenuous push and pull of the machine lever. The hours stretch on longer than I can even think to imagine. At the end of the day, my arms are heavy to the point where I can barely hold up the few coins of my pay. And when I walk outside, all I see is a darkness. A cloudy darkness, as the chimneys belch and roar. An endless purgatory, a polluted city, my very own Russian hell.
We have been polluting our very standard of living. We can change this bleak world that lies in our direct future. Take a stand against industrialism and join us, the Agrarian Russia Union, in the effort to preserve a healthier, cleaner, and better Russia. Call us at 109-238-7456.
The Social Revolutionary Party was not the only socialist power in Russia. with a focus on the improvement of Russian economy through industrialism, as well as the rise of the proletariat class, the Russian Social Democratic Party coexisted. This party would soon expand in power to encompass and influence even the most powerful ranks of Russian society and government. Thus, they came to represent the socialist movement in Russia in
The
general.
Bolsheviks were a fascinating socialist group. They were the followers of Vladimir Lenin. Their country was festering with socialist ideas, and Lenin would develop one that would be the Bolsheviks' ways. Unlike other Russian socialists of the time, Lenin believed specific people should be trained to become revolutionary leaders, which is contrary to the belief of his party, the Russian Social Democrats, that there must be a large proletariat to bring about the Marxist revolution in Russia. This would split the party into Lenin's Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks.
Unhappy Russians like Lenin would be ignored by Tsar Nicholas II. The Tsar's disregard for his people's needs was shown to be short-lived, as revolts grew more frequent and intense. They called for government restructuring and the weakening of the monarchical oppression that the populace believed that Nicholas had instated. Nicholas saw that there was no other choice but to compromise with his people by issuing the October Manifesto. The manifesto would promise Russian citizens a constitutional government.
The October Manifesto was issued by Tsar Nicholas II as a result of the Russian Revolt of 1905. By issuing the October Manifesto, he essentially promised Russia a constitutional government. Nicholas announced a representative body known as a Duma, with two chambers as a result of this. However, the April elections returned a highly radical group of representatives. Once Nicholas replaced Witt with Stolypin, the Duma was dissolved, and thus took back his power that he supposedly had given up with the October Manifesto.
Like a row of falling dominoes, the growing industrialism in Russia before World War I would begin a great era of reconstruction. This would cause the downfall of the Tsar and the rise of Vladimir Lenin's socialist faction, the Bolsheviks. One event led to another as the corrupt factory owners molded working conditions to their own likings. Long hours, cramped spaces, and little pay provided the working class with reasons to rise up. The cries of the workers empowered the socialist parties, allowing them to shape the government. The social discontent and conservative resistance to the liberal reforms undermined Tsar Nicholas's authority in Russia. This pivotal event would later lead to the rise of Stalin and Russia as a mighty communist state, the USSR.
Three, two, one, action! Ludwig van Beethoven.